What's up, guys? Welcome back on Sport Vitamins for episode 47. Today's guest is the Suns and Mercury executive chef, Brandon Ayers. Brandon and his team prepare the high quality nutrition that fuels the Valley's best athletes. Nutrition is a key component of high level performance, but food must also be fun, tasty, and meet the expectations of the athletes. Brandon will walk us through the gourmet kitchen at the Verizon 5G Performance Center and unveil some of the secrets to become an NBA chef. So without further ado, guys, here's episode 47 of Sport Vitamins with Chef Brandon Ayer.
Brandon, welcome on Sport Vitamins. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you. Good to see you,
Thanks
Roberto.
thanks for taking the time today. It's a great honor to have you on. Usually I start the episode asking my guests a little bit of a rundown on their background.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in the hospitality and cooking, profession a little over 20 years now. I kind of got into the industry slow and steady. I started in high school. One of my first jobs was as a bag boy at a grocery store, a local grocery store. Kind of lied on my application, said I was a little older than I was just so I could get a job. Was really looking forward to create my own independence, and trying to save for a car. So I started at a local grocery store here in Arizona called the Abco. It no longer exists, but shortly thereafter, I started working as a busboy in a local Mexican restaurant. So I actually started in the front of house. And then from that point, it kind of transitioned into working in different hotels and clubs and private golf club communities. And, as a server, busboy, I didn't really transition to the back of house, as they call it, into the kitchen until probably about my second year in college. I did really good in school and got a nice ride to ASU, and I was actually studying architecture and engineering. But after my first year, it didn't seem like it was something that I was passionate about. I could see myself doing these tasks day in, day out, and didn't think my life would be fulfilled, so to speak. And I was dating this girl at the time, and decided to, my parents helped me out a lot, helped me pay for college, keep me on my feet while I'm studying my scholastics. And I ended up going home and visiting my parents, and I cooked dinner. I was like, I'll do something nice for them. Cooking dinner one day, and we had a little family dinner. And excuse me one sec. And cooked dinner. We all sat down to dinner, and we're eating, and you hear the grumbles like, "Oh, this is really good." And my father was like, "Hey, man, this meal's really good." And looks to my mom, and she's like, "Well, don't thank me, I said, "Well, who the hell cooked?" Like, your son. He's like, "Ever thought about being a chef?" And the light bulb just clicked. So a little bit more of my background. We come from Italian heritage, and my mother's mom, my grandmother, who's long since been deceased, but she's second generation from Italy, came over, stayed, I think Rochester was where she was born. Her parents, came from Florence. So we always grown up with just really awesome food. Every time we saw grandma or she came over, she would make just fantastic food. Whether it's her fresh made pastas, and her pies were like the most delicious, flakiest, best crust you could ever find, like just really good butter, really good flour, just made just so good. So I always had these layers in my life that kind of, it was almost like that moment where I realized what I was meant to do or what I was supposed to do or work towards, I guess. So shortly thereafter, I quit ASU and went to culinary school. It's a local culinary school here in Arizona. And after that, it was really just hitting the ground running. I worked with some really great people, had some good connections through that, and started, back into hotels again. I worked at, JW Marriott, Desert Ridge. That was a new hotel that was coming up here in the Valley. And then started working at a bunch of different really nice boutique restaurants. One of them was Mark Tarbell. That was my first job back in 2014 as like a sous chef, where I was responsible for things and people and managing a crew and a business and understanding financials and the impact that you have as a manager. During about my 3 years there, he had got an opportunity to be on Iron Chef. So I had a really cool 2 month long training trial thing to get our team ready for filming, essentially. Um, short story is he ended up winning the championship when he went on and beat Cat Cora for the final, and I ended up having to stay back and take care of the restaurant essentially while my chef and Mark, the owner of the restaurant, and one of our front of house managers went to film. So I needed somebody to stick back. So that was a really cool experience. And then kind of bounced around a couple different spots and staged at some really nice kind of avant-garde style food. Just learning a little bit about molecular gastronomy and how food reacts and changes and how you can manipulate food to change texture and just plate things a little bit differently. It's a different approach to food, really. It's more aesthetics and textures than anything, right? So I was really, really, really the El Bulli trend that started in the early 2000s, right? That really sparked my interest even further with regards to food, because it just showed me how relentless, how evolving, and how amazing food could really be, and I think most people take that for granted. But spent the last 10 years cooking for a group called Fox Restaurant Concepts. This mogul, his name's Sam Fox. He's a restaurant mogul here in the U.S., and he's got multiple restaurants throughout. He ended up selling majority share to the Cheesecake Factory. So the Cheesecake Factory is actually the ownership that owns most of the concepts that they ran, but worked for him for about 10 years. And a lot of different roles, from opening kitchens to traveling, opening up restaurants as a trainer, as a good support system, as more like a culture leader, right? And hiring great people, training great people, setting great standards, and just running really clean, financially responsible operations. That really turned a corner for me in my industry. Like, for what I do, it kind of took me out of cooking every day, and it's more about managing the business and understanding how to be equitable, if that makes sense. So over 10 years, I worked in several different kitchens, operated over, I think it's about 8 or 9 different restaurants here in the state, one in Las Vegas and one in California, most recently in Coronado Island. So my last job was with a Henry. That's the brand. And Sam Fox just opened up one in Coronado Island, and this was a little over 3 years ago. I was struggling and sent me out there. Really enjoyed my time there, and ended up moving out there for about a year and a half. About my second month in, when the coronavirus hit, and it just became a pandemic. We had to literally furlough our entire staff, close the restaurant down. And it was a really scary moment. We moved our whole family away from our family. So I have 2 kids, a beautiful wife, and we took this opportunity to go out, try something new, experience a different world, essentially. And 2 months later, boom, pandemic hits, and COVID's run rampant, and everyone's freaking out and doesn't know what to do. We ended up buckling down there for the next year, working through that. Like I said, I had to furlough my entire staff, and it was just our managers working to goes. We continued to operate the restaurant just as a management staff and opened up to go food only. And we'd open up the door just to deliver food to people that place online orders, essentially, DoorDash and Uber Eats, and just to continue trying to be normal, and support our local communities, which I think was very respectable. And I think a lot of restaurants had closed, and it hit our industry tremendously hard. But it was also a very interesting learning moment. You learn a lot about yourself and what's important to you, and still being able to serve others was like the icing on the cake, through all the adversity and things and challenges we had to go through, not just personally, but in the business side too. And during that time, it looked like an internal post had come through on our side showing that we're hiring for a chef for the Phoenix Suns. So I went to my regional director and I said, "Hey, look, I noticed that you got this post here. Tell me a little bit about that. What's like, I don't understand what's going on here." And she was like, "Oh yeah, so the owner of the Suns, Robert Sarver, had reached out to Sam, and they have this new facility that they're building right across the corner, where it's literally almost a stone's throw away from where I used to work, where our corporate offices were. So I guess they go back to Tucson. They're both from Tucson, and their families know each other. So lo and behold, Robert had asked Sam to find him a chef. Said, "I don't know anything about this business. You're the best at it. Find me the best person I can, and I need them now." Well, the timing was just kind of perfect. We didn't really have a staff. We were operating about 30%. I've been with the company a long time. I was looking for maybe a change if the right thing came, and didn't really even think I had an opportunity or a chance for it, but I wanted to vie for the position. And had some conversations with our general manager, James Jones, VP of Health Performance, our VP of Rehab, and some really good conversations, some Zoom calls, and some personal, face-to-face meetings. And meanwhile, they're still hiring externally and having people come in, do stages and cooking. And so I ended up beating them out, and they called me about a month later and offered me the job. And 7 days later, got me on a plane and moved us all back. And I started like almost immediately. It was really, really fast. Kind of a cool story. I mean, it goes deeper than that, but it's like all this hard work got to, like, I'm finally relishing what I do and all the hard work that I finally, that I put in, hoping that I'd get something of this caliber, and to work with incredible athletes, like the top 1% of athletes in the world, is just a humbling, blessing that I get to enjoy day in and day out. And now it's just transforming my ideas and thoughts and creations when it comes to food, and really applying those to a dietetic or a nutritional approach. I'm learning so much about food and how food is more like a science and health. There's so many benefits from food that, at the surface, I would just scratch and say, these flavors work well together. How do I compose a dish that is unctuous, delicious, beautiful, right? Eat with your eyes. And so like this traditional method of training of cooking, you can definitely apply in the sports world. However, you have to kind of shape and mold yourself around what's needed versus what you want to do, if that makes sense. But like the longer I cook, the more research I do. You're like, well, honey is great for this. And I use horseradish. I'm like, well, is horseradish too spicy for some of the guys? Some guys like spicy. I said, well, it's actually really great for gut health. Well, maybe I'll just put a little in, so it's not too much, but you can get the essence and the flavor, but you also still get the health benefits of it. So the cooking process for me has changed tremendously. And obviously it's a different arena no pun intended, but it's a different gamut than serving, paying guests, that are coming to a restaurant for an experience. So it's a little different, but I've been blessed to have this opportunity, and I'm just going to do what I can with it while I'm here.
Oh, great. Uh, you have a great experience, and from your words, I can really feel the passion that you have for your job and for cooking in general, for food. And yeah, it's a definitely hard job because, like you said, there's so much involved with food. It's not only the flavor or what people see. There's also some, I don't know, like chemistry behind cooking good food and cooking healthy food.
Sure.
So can you tell us something about it?
Yeah. When we think about food, for us, it's like the staples, like the things that are most impactful. It all starts with sourcing, having good ethics and getting good products. Take that back, great products, right? Try to find the best products that we can serve, source in a sustainable way. We try to, as much as we can. I work with some local farmers too. There's a local farmer here by the name of Bob McClendon that we work with. We probably get about 60 to 80% of our raw vegetable source from that organic farmer. So we have to cope with the seasons a little bit because there's only so much available to us. He's got, I think, over 90 acres of local organic farming here in Arizona, Yuma, and kind of spread out throughout the valley. But, it's a hot state. So only certain things grow at certain times. And then adversely in the winter, the ground gets really, really cold. So it's hard to grow certain things, tubers mostly, but things from our potatoes, grains like quinoa, fresh legumes, whether it's navy beans, pinto beans, cannellini beans, etc. And just really trying to focus on getting really great products first and foremost, right? Because if you can get food anywhere from any grocery store, you can even get fruit at a liquor store if you wanted to. But the idea is that you're putting the cleanest version of a fuel, right? We look at food as fuel, really. So if you get the cleanest, best sustained grown food, no pesticides, no aspartame, and other things that are added, hormone growth, etc., to eliminate those immediately, right? So we don't purchase anything like that. And then from that point is really just understanding athletes, right? Some have great palates, some are well versed and are, veterans of the league and played in across the world, and they're well traveled and they understand what good food is and like to dine out. And there's others that are 20 years old, never played in college, came straight from high school, and all they know is what they've been fed or what their parents have given them, and who knows the caliber of quality that they've received throughout that journey. So our idea is to try to educate during the process and getting to know one another and understanding what makes them tick, trying to understand what they like, what they don't like, and really what fuels them, right? When we try to think about like performance plates and creating food that athletes want to eat, we still have like parameters that we want to hit. I work with our dietitian. She's our VP of nutrition and dietetics. Her name is Danielle Lafata. She's been absolutely incredible to work with. She is kind of like my rock when it comes to the understanding of the science behind food and what athletes need to perform at their highest level. So we kind of stage it out in like a low, moderate, and high training levels. So if we have athletes that are, come off the bench and don't have a lot of minutes, depending on their BMI and what their labs are, we kind of come up with a fueling game plan. I got a couple examples here to show too, if you wanted. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, here, I'll show you one. So I have one here for myself. I don't know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Close here for a little bit, but so we kind of break these things down. So like vegetables, for instance, is what we call like preventative food, right? That's going to help keep your joints and your knees and all the, crashing the boards and getting bumped and hit, and you might step wrong, etc. Like the vegetable piece and healthy fats are what help protect you from getting hurt or injured and or recover quicker. um Protein, obviously, that's to build muscle mass. um Grains, starches, fruits are the fueling source, or carbs. So we changed our verbiage. We don't say carbs, we say fueling source, right? And we don't say fat, because fat could be a negative connotation. It's like, well, what things are we going to use to protect your body? So it's just a little bit different verbiage, right, than you're used to as a traditional chef versus a performance chef. So it's just understanding those two things, and really just as soon as you get that understanding, it's no different. You know what they are as a chef, but you don't talk about them in that way, right? So it's just kind of changing the way you act a little bit, I guess. And then really, once we understand what the athlete needs based on their output, we want to make sure that they stay within their guidelines. So if we got a guy that's 185, 6'1", that plays about 6 to 9 minutes, he might be on that moderate training level, and that'll range anywhere from 28 to 3,800 calories a day. That could change. I gotta have a high level guy like DA that's playing 38 minutes, and he might need 5,000 to 6,000 calories. So portion control is a little bit of the game we have to play. And then finding the right vessels to put the food in so it travels well and it still looks good. So like there's a lot of different logistical challenges that come into it, but really it's understanding, making sure you have the right combination. The there's no right or wrong way, but it's really a template for us that we use, right? So we stick to about 25-30% protein. So we're looking at about 63 grams of protein per meal. Carbohydrates around 40%. They're burning a lot, and our most athletes that are in NBA are thin because they're very tall. But we also don't want to put weight on them. Some gain weight really easy and some lose it really quickly. So it's just a playing game, kind of touch base every week. And then, we finish that with good, healthy vegetables too. We try to have at least 25% to 35 and upwards of more. But we're seeing a lot more, more of a trend in the plant-based world now. I feel like there's a lot of misnomers and a lot of information that gets spread throughout the community and especially online and TikToks and whatever, promoting plant-based foods and how it's healthier for you. So we have some alternatives to plant-based foods, protein, right? So we're kind of on the cusp of not sure if we want that or want those things to be consumed, and or try to weave our way to get a little bit better balance, because it's really hard to get the quantity of protein that you need as a plant-based eater. Now, that's a ton of legumes. It would take 3 heads of cauliflower to equate to like an 8-ounce steak to get the quantity of protein. So then you have to train your stomach to even intake the quantity of food that you would need to get the nutrient supplement that you would in a plant-based diet. So there's some challenges there, right? So we're trying to figure out ways that we could build nutritious meals using clean fats like avocado oil, chia seed, etc., and incorporate that with legumes and other things to really bolster some more nutrition in there rather than just a ton of vegetables, right? Now, the misnomer on the plant-based healthy protein alternatives is uh, half the ingredients you can't even pronounce. If I look at a carrot, that's a carrot. If I look at a cut of beef, that's steak. Well, what's in it? Beef. It's one ingredient. And there's other. Let's use Beyond Meat for an example. It has so many different emulsifiers and things I can't even pronounce. Even if I grab the box now and tried to read it out, I probably couldn't do a good job, right? How would that be better or healthier than something I can identify and know what it is? So to me, it's almost doing yourself an injustice. And then if you look at the saturated fat content in some of these things, it almost, you're going backwards a little bit just to try to get the added protein that you're missing. I'm on the cusp, man. I can't say indefinitely that a plant-based diet is the right thing for athletes particularly. I know there's a lot that goes into that. Deciding whether you want to be a plant-based eater or not. There's some ethics involved, right? And all I care about is how you feel. At the end of the day, I don't care how you eat. All I care about is how you feel when you do eat. So, there's times where we'll serve food and we don't know everybody's likes or dislikes. We don't get all the information, right? So what we try to do is try to solicit some of that information, having quick conversations. Hey, man, I noticed you didn't eat this meal yesterday. Is this something you didn't like, or did you read something that that you don't like? What is it about that certain meal that you didn't touch, and just try to figure out what it is. And that's really hard to do at times because of the schedule and the professional athletes. They got things to do, and it might not be the most important thing for them. It's important to us, but having a 40% field goal shooting is probably more important to them than what they're going to have dinner tonight. So or there's a surplus of things that take precedent over their meal for the day. So trying to get a little bit more inclusion and get them more excited about food is more of a journey and more of a task and more of a work in progress. It's a constant trying to not prove yourself, but gain the respect, right? And gain the trust. And that's really where it starts. And as soon as we get that, the dialogue kind of opens up a little bit and we're able to create meals a little bit more personalized for each person. And that's really what we focus on, because we want to make sure they eat, and we want to make sure that we can kind of control and know what they're eating in order to understand how they feel, because they can walk in one day and be like, I just don't feel it today. What's going on? I don't know. And they give you nothing. Like, I walk by his car and I see, Cane's fried chicken bag in their car and a soda cup in there. I'm like, maybe that's it. Who knows? We have these like kind of discussions in the back, in closed doors, and we kind of joke about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's what's comforting to them. That's what they know. So how do we recreate food that resembles what they know? And this is kind of the lead into like how we cook for the players, because like I said, I can cook avant-garde stuff and make spherification and do foams and fun stuff to make food fun, but they're going to look at that like, what is this? I don't understand this. What's that name? So it has to be somewhat identifiable. So we try to we try to recreate food that's known. So for instance, like we'll do days like everyone loves Chipotle, right? Like it's quick, easy, grab, healthier, version of fast food, I guess, right? But people know what it is and they love it. It's very simple. You have few choices, and it all tastes really good, right? For the most part. So we try to recreate a, a meal or a buffet that day, and we'll kind of piggyback off that concept. And maybe we'll do something a little different than what they do, right? We won't do the exact same thing, but try to have a little bit more fun with it and throw in ingredients that maybe they're not known to. Because part of the problem is that, you know, and you're in vitamins and supplements more than I am, and I don't deal with that very much. I really kind of focus on trying to get most of the nutrients through food, right? Like, to my understanding, supplements are used in a way where you're deficient, right? Or your body can't process, or you're not getting it from a diverse diet. So what we try to do is try to create a really diverse diet. So Monday could be, maybe we do a Chinese themed buffet, and then on Tuesday we'll do an Italian themed something, and then Wednesday we'll do a Mediterranean diet style food, and then Thursday we'll go Japanese and do poke bowls or sushi rolls, and then Friday we'll go pizza or burgers or something that's identifiable, right? But what we try to do in each of those things is get really good ingredients, so we know where they come from. It comes from a clean kitchen, so you trust where it's being produced from, and I source really really good products for us to consume, and that seems to be a really nice equation for us. Um, but I've noticed that if I try to do something and try to push the envelope a little bit, as chefs regularly do, especially in restaurants and hotels, uh, the farther away I get from consumption. So there's this balance of trying to force diversity in the diet versus consuming what's actually being served. So there is a balance. I have one athlete that the only vegetable he'll eat is broccoli, will not consume anything else. They're like, well, okay, at least it's broccoli. That's great for your lungs. You're running all the time, so at least you got that. But what other vegetables would you consider? I list off. Nope, nope, nope. How about this? How about that? Nope, nope, nope. You're like, hey, dude, we got some work to do. You know, Brussels sprouts? Yeah, I'll eat that. All right, I got two veggies now. So you take the small ones when you can, right? And then you incorporate them in their diet. But then I'm like, well, if he's having broccoli at every meal or Brussels sprouts every meal, how's his gut gonna feel? He's producing a lot of gas in there. Is that comfortable after a while? Probably not, right? So there's got to be a balance in a way. But again, it comes to comfort, comes to what they know and trust and how they feel. And that's everything. I kind of go back to that. It's like, how do you feel today? Um, Everybody's got good and bad days, right? But what you put in your body is a direct result of how you're going to feel. So there's a direct correlation between how you feel on nutrition and food. And this is where it gets really fun for me, because now it becomes personal. Now it becomes an objective for me to try to ensure athletes not only get the best food, but do it consistently and enjoy doing it. And then seeing their faces, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, no problem.
Seeing their faces and having discussions after the fact and saying, yo, that chili Colorado was fire. All of a sudden you're like, oof, I wasn't sure if they were going to like that. I'm so glad they liked, because you never really know, right? You just kind of trust in yourself and all the skills and the experience that you've had, and take all this knowledge and try to make great food, but you never really know how it's going to be perceived. So we take these small wins and try to compound on those and try to build on that. And then slowly and steady, we got 4, 5, 6 guys that are either talking about it or we see more regularly, and they become more of an advocate for us too, without having to advocate, if that makes sense, right? But the real challenge is trying to get 100% of each athlete to eat this way it's never going to happen. I've accepted that after 3 years of being, 3 seasons with these two teams. It's like, okay, I can force it and beat myself up and say, what could I do differently? And I'm never going to stop, thinking that way, because you can. But the idea is that we try to get every athlete eating a specific way, with regards to how they get their nutrition. Um, it's all about education, really, and trust. That's what we've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's similar to strength and conditioning. You need to plant the seed and then take care of it and wait for it to grow. And then, like you said, if you have like 3, 4, 5 players that are on board, then they become your advocate, and your job is a little bit easier.
Yeah, and what we've noticed is that you got to attack the top down, right? So the people that have the most influence over the team are the coach, right? Your star players, those are the leaders of our team. So um, other people like to emulate them, right? Because they want to be like them or be better than them, and that's what they aspire to be. Get big contracts, be a star. I mean, that's why they're in it, right? They want to be known, and they want to be respected for their skill sets, and they want to get better each and every day. And we do the same, in the kitchen. So that's synonymous for us to have those same desires to get better. Um, and that's what fuels us, in the kitchen, and me and my chefs trying to think outside the box to figure out how we can get these things accomplished. But slow and steady is kind of wins the race, and that's our method. And I love the analogy you put out there. It's like planting the seed, right, and letting it grow, and then just continue to water it. But in this industry, as you know, it's fickle, and it changes, and it could change in a heartbeat. For instance, we just lost two of my favorite players, Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Those two guys we saw up here every day, every morning, knew us by name, said hello, gave us, love, and it was mad respect, and in a heartbeat, they're gone. I don't even get to say goodbye to them. They're on a new team playing 2 days later in Brooklyn. So you're like, hit you up, wish you well, man. It's been fun knowing you, and I wish you the best of luck out there. Will I see him again? Who knows? So things can just rapidly change like that, and all of a sudden we have a whole new team. So now I got 4 or 5 new people. Things change, and so now you got to adjust again. So we'll go back, and Danielle, our RD, does regular labs, and we try to solicit to get to do one thing that we do is a LEAP, MRT. Have you heard of that?
No.
So it's a food sensitivity test, and this helps us really kind of gauge how your body may feel from what's the word I'm looking for? From like an inflammatory or food sensitivity, right? So if something's causing inflammation, what is it? Let's figure out what that is. And not all the athletes love doing lab work, right? Because you got to get pricked, and you got to take some blood, and you got to wait for the results, and then you got to sit down and talk about it. And it's more of a plan, right? A food plan. And I actually did this myself because I've been having some some gut issues for a few months, and I said, let me do this myself. So both me and my wife took the test, and we got our results back, and we are like astonished at the results. I have a high sensitivity to 4 ingredients, never knew in my life, and 20 others that were moderate to low high. And you're like, these are things I'm eating every day. As easy as oranges, grapes, cantaloupe, cauliflower, butternut squash. I mean, those are just a few things on my list. But wheat, corn was incredibly, like, I've never seen a chart graph with so much red in it. It was like coming off the page. And I go, Mexican food, tortillas, what else has corn in it? And I go in my pantry, and I'm like, holy crap, modified food cornstarch, or modified corn syrup, or high fructose corn syrup. And you're like, holy crap, it's everywhere, right? Like, I can't eat any of this stuff. It's been so overproduced and farmed that it's now like a cancer that's in all of our food, that's in all of our grocery stores food and we think it's okay and healthy, but it's really slowly poisoning us and we don't even realize it. And our FDA is allowed to make that decision for us. I don't know, it's a little crazy to me. But so anyway, I'm learning a lot about this just doing it myself, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, well, if these 20 things are causing me inflammation, do I get a headache from drinking coffee? Is it, do I get acne or skin blemishes from having corn or things that have corn syrup in it? Having back pain, gut health, obviously, is a big one. But so we removed all these things from our diet for 6 months and then slowly reintroducing them. It's amazing how much better I feel. I just never would have known it unless I'd gone down the path and actually took the test, right? So some of the athletes will get on board and be like, cool, I'm with it, let's go. And they'll take it and we'll learn and take that information back. And then we create a fueling plan for them that is, eccentric for them personally based on how they feel. So back to that feeling thing again. So you're going out there and you're shaking and grooving and trying to shake defenders. And how do you feel when you're doing all that? And then how do you feel the next day and how are you recovering? So food plays a big role, a vital role, I think, in all of this, especially with regards to recovery. But the preventative measures too that food could bring is pretty astronomical. And this is where now my mind is starting to change as a chef, I guess, more or less, and how I think about food, and food being more as it's not a lifeline, it's something that should be celebrated, but also nurtured. It's the food is the one thing that I think brings us all together, right? If, on my bucket list, I'm coming to Italy, I'm going to eat at all the best restaurants because that's an experience to me, right? If I go and travel anywhere else, what's the first thing you do? You go eat their food. Like wherever you are, you go and eat their food. You just do it because that's what's available. But that's part of the experience, right? When you travel or go somewhere and experience something new. It's the one thing that keeps us alive. So it's like the most important thing next to water, right? And we'll talk about water in a little bit because hydration is probably a huge factor in what we do, especially in sports. But that experience, like there's something soulful about food, and you can find comfort in food as well. But if you're not putting the right things in your body, you're not also going to get the results that you're desiring, and you might not feel the best either. So it's a very accumulative process between a lot of different departments, right? For us. And really my main focus is just creating great food, trying to make it taste wonderful, make it approachable to any person, right? And then some education that's involved with food and trying to open up the diversity of what's being consumed. And that's a really big goal for us because we don't want people to just take a bunch of pills, right? Like that's the last thing we want. We want this to be completely holistic, organic as much as possible. So when you're just popping a bunch of supplements because you're not getting it from foods you could be consuming, that to me is you're doing yourself a disservice, right? And not only that, how much of that is your body actually using or absorbing? It's probably a lot less than you would probably hope. And I don't think it's the answer. I think the answer is kind of going back to our roots, which is finding really great food, preparing them simply, sticking within the guidelines, and just having a little fun with it, whether it's, some phytonutrients that have a little bit more punch, like Espelette, a different pepper, right? Maybe season the fish with that. It's got a little bit more like kick or spice to it, but it also has like a more robust flavor than just crushed black pepper that you season fish with or whatever. So it's just trying to take those little things. And fennel pollen, for instance, is wonderful. One of our favorite dishes is we do a pasta bolognese, and render out the beef, right? And I typically put it back in and emulsify it, but we take out that excess fat, right? Because we don't want to overload athletes with a bunch of fat. So just taking those as soon as you understand what's needed, you can kind of cook and correlate what you need to make it fit an athlete's diet. So I use Wagyu. It's ribbed with fat, but it's good, clean fat, and it's used to like season and unctify, the food. But then we remove the fat, ladle out and skim out all that excess fat that's unneeded. It's all saturated fat that's useless at that point, right? And your bowels don't really like it. Food's probably going to slide out with all that fat, right? So the idea is that it stays in there. We can actually consume it, absorb everything, and feel comfortable consuming before and after. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that we do, and we can get into particulars, but yeah, I love cooking for these guys. It's fun. It's humbling, but it's a really cool experience.
And Brandon, what does a typical game day fueling plan look like?
So game day for us, it varies by game, but I'll give you just kind of like what a normal day would look like. So typically for us, being in a Mountain Standard Time, our games are typically around 7 p.m. So I have a couple guys that come in about 5 a.m. in the morning. They have 2 hours to really get breakfast, breakfast potatoes cooked. They crack eggs and pull eggs and make whipped eggs and, for our scrambled eggs. So it's quicker. We're not, trying to scramble them to order or crack eggs to order unless they order them that way, right? 3 eggs over medium, et cetera, so forth. But so they get the station set up, they get, bacon, turkey bacon, chicken sausage, potatoes, like I said, and they fire up the grills and, all the waffle maker and, all the stuff, right? And they get us ready. And then we start breakfast promptly at 7. Most of the like, I would say our coaching and our support staff come in fairly early. So they're in 7:30, 8. Typical game day, we have a shoot around every day here at the facility at 10 a.m. So players, coaches, staff alike, whoever's in the building, come over. We use an app that's called Zone In. So it's kind of tailored and geared towards sports nutrition, but it's an app. So it's like, so now the guys can just kind of go to their phone, hit this little app, log in, and there's a fueling guide for them. And there's also meals that are already meant for them that we already know. So they're tailored for their liking. So they have like, oh, I can just go on and be like, that's my normal breakfast. Boom, send. I want it picked up at this time. So they can do it at their house at 8 o'clock. Be like, I want my food ready at 8:30. Ticket comes through. We knock it out just like a regular restaurant, right? And so then their food's here and ready for them, and then they go get ready and get on the court, right? So breakfast is served. I usually keep breakfast a little longer. So some guys come in at like 9:50 and like, I want breakfast, but like I gotta hit the court right now. So we're like, okay, so what you want? So we'll make their food or whatever when they get off the court because they're only here for about an hour. So they'll shoot around, work out, do what they need to do, shower up, and they get out of here for the day by noon typically. And after any activity, we always do a post-activity smoothie. So, and this is kind of like group setting, so we do in big batches and whatnot. We try to get about 600 calories per, and we change up the flavors, make it fun. All sorts of different stuff, bananas and all IQF and frozen fruits, all organic stuff that we use to make our smoothies. And we use different bases too for smoothies, from coconut water to plant-based Ripple milk. It's got a little bit more protein in it, apple juice, etc. And we'll throw greens in there sometimes, chlorella or whatever's necessary, right? Spinach, kale, healthy fats like peanut butter, almond butter, chia seed, hemp seed, that kind of thing. And we just make big batch smoothies for them so we can get a little additional carbohydrates in there, really fuel them up for the activities that they're about to hit come game time. And then we have a little bit of downtime. We got about 3 hours of downtime, but during that downtime, we're pretty much staging all the food. So just to kind of snapshot what it looks like for us is that, the arena is about 30 minutes away from where we practice. And I have a catering truck that we outfitted with like a loading ramp and all this stuff. And so I got hot boxes on wheels and I cold boxes on wheels that are all self-contained and hold food really well so we can travel with it. So what we do is, like I said, we label all our to-go boxes with all our ingredients, and we label each player, and whether it's an athlete, a coach that has specific dietary requirement, we make labels. So we go on and print labels and print labels for all the meals and all the ingredients that are served within those meals, so they understand. Like when they look at it, it's like, okay, it's Frank Adams, perfect. Teriyaki bowl today. I have steamed rice, roasted carrots, steamed zucchini, teriyaki sauce, except, and it just lays out what's in there so they know, like, hey, this is what's in there. Okay, cool. And then they open the lid and they're like, yep, that's what I wanted. All right, cool. Right. So we stage all that. And then it's a process of, it's really just timing, right? All right, cool. We have to be here at a time, and how long does it take? Check traffic, so there's a lot of like logistical things that we have to go to make sure that the food travels really well. Because the last thing we want to do is go through all this work and then get there and it's not great. It's cold, or maybe it's too hot, or something happened during transit and the food got shifted in the boxes. And, we want to make sure it looks good and also tastes good as well. So we think about all those things. So as soon as they're gone, typical game time, like I said, starts about 7. And then, so we have to be there. We try to get there at least 3 hours before the event. So tip off, we'll leave here at 3, takes about a half hour, and then takes another half hour to like get into the locker room and set everything up. And we make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Those are our favorite. So that's a nice little snack. And we have a bunch of different like healthy, nutritious snacks. We make some stuff too. Ever had like a protein ball, right? It's made with oats, butter, and whatever. We make a version that's a little lighter and uses Rice Krispies, which are gluten-free. We have a lot of gluten-free people too as well. So I have to source like our oats, our steel cut oats, and our pressed oats, all organic and gluten-free, which are special orders typically because nobody really stocks those. They just, carry the normal stuff that is riddled with garbage in it. So we do like overnight oats, parfaits, fresh cut fruits, apples, oranges, grapes, all sorts of different little snacks. And then we have some really cool, we use a company called RTZN Brands, and we get some really like low sugar, healthier snacks. So, there's times where I get like some of these gummy bears, right, called Smart Sweets. And one of the old players, Frank Kaminsky, we had, his favorite thing was Swedish fish. So instead of getting Swedish fish, which has got corn syrup in it, it's riddled with tons of sugar. It's really all sugar, right? It's like 18 grams of sugar per little pack or whatever. And now you can get this little pack. It's only 3 grams of sugar and still get like that desire that you wanted to eat the sweet without it being counterproductive. You know what I mean? On the sugar and the corn syrup thing. Beef jerky sticks, aloha bars, a lot of seeds and nuts and grains and stuff like that for snacks. And then we just try to do all our meals so we start plating. So we have to leave at 3. We'll start plating food around 2. And that takes us about an hour to go through because we got about 25 just completely different foods that we make for the player specifically. One player gets one thing, another gets another thing with a specific vegetable and so on and so forth. So it's more or less like you're cooking a la menu. So in the restaurant industry, it's like that's cooked to order, right? And then the rest of the stuff we can kind of do in batch cooking. So I always do like a staff special, right? The players' food we keep really consistent, so they know what they're getting. They know how they're going to act and feel after consuming this food item, right? So it takes a few games. It takes about a month or so to kind of figure out what each person likes or gravitates towards with regards to food. And then I just kind of lock in their meal. And then if they start to get bored, we can have a discussion. We try to open up that dialogue and then I'll create something different and new. And it's just this work in progress thing. But for the most part, we try to keep it really consistent because each game day, there's kind of this layer of habit, right? Like they're creatures of habit, especially on game days. Each one does a specific thing, and I'm sure you've come across some athletes that just do some weird stuff or wear something because it's lucky to them, or they feel like they're going to perform best today if they're wearing this thing or do this ritual, right? So we never do anything dramatic or changing, and we try not to do a lot of things that will cause discomfort or gas, right? So not a lot of broccoli, cauliflower, and legumes to start because we don't want them to feel that discomfort during a game, right? That's the worst thing we want. So we keep it pretty simple and pretty clean and really plain, so to speak. I hate using that word, but it could still be clean and good being plain, So simple steamed rice with a tablespoon of healthy fat and, a roasted piece of salmon with some teriyaki sauce and a couple of different veg, It's really simple but clean, and we know they're not going to, have discomfort during the day. And as soon as we get that all packed up, we're literally on the road, pack up, load these hot boxes in, got to wheel them up, into a van, and then we get on that van and we hit the freeway and try to get there as fast as we can safely. And as soon as we hit the arena, we load up, we check in, go through security, and then make our way into the locker room. And as soon as we get into the locker room, really it's just manicuring and making sure everything's set up just like you were in a restaurant, right? So we have some hot boxes that we set up down there for delivery and for service, and people can come in and out and just grab what they need. It's easy. They can just open the door and see their name on a label and just, oh, that's my meal. Cool. And so, like I said, they can go through, and it's really kind of like a grab and go kind of service. There's no kitchen down there, no hood system. We have fridges, and that's pretty about, and a sink, but we do smoothies and stuff down there too as well. And then as soon as we're set up down there, we're usually gone, boom, out, come back to the facility, and we start prepping all our stuff for post-game meals. And really the whole day is just about cooking for the players and the team and just accommodating their needs and obviously executing what we need to do on our end. And then that cycle just continues for post game. We'll usually throw on the TV on the big screen up in our space. We have a bunch of TVs, so we have an open kitchen too, so everyone can see everything that we're doing, which I love. So we throw on the TV and we're like, all right, let's watch the game. All right, tip off, cool. So we kind of gauge it based on the game flow, which is kind of fun. So we kind of watch from afar, but we're also like, okay, sometimes the games start a little late because the game before or whatever may happen. So we're like, timing's crucial for the food, right? So as soon as the game starts, we're like, okay, we could start firing the food. So we'll do it in different stages. We always have about 3 different, options to choose from. We take care of our plant-based eaters and our vegans, and then we kind of trickle it down to like a pescatarian meal because we got a couple pescatarians. I always love to serve at least one fish item and or one chicken item, and then a beef or something. I don't do a lot of pork just because it's high in saturated fat, but probably like once a month I'll throw on like a lamb rack or a pork chop or something like that. So it's comforting. They know I'm not trying to hide it from them, but not everyone actually eats pork too. So it's kind of a balance, right? To try to get all the things that I want to cook and things that I know some people really like, but for everyone to like all the things is just never going to happen. So I have to kind of like pick my battles. But from that point, really, is just staging and timing. As soon as we get to about halftime, we're like, all right, all the food should be plated by now. And then we're wrapping up. Third quarter starts, boom, we're loading back in and heading back to the arena. And again, we kind of clear the space, set up again. So like another grab and go, that's a brand new version of it with all dinner stuff. And then by like the half of the fourth quarter, that's done. And then we're out of there and we come back, clean the kitchen. So it's a super long day. I mean, we're here from, I got a couple guys that are in at like 5 a.m. And then, myself, I'm usually here for every meal period. So I won't leave till the job's done and the kitchen's clean. So it'll be 14, 16-hour days some days, but it just depends on what we're doing, how intense the prep is and how far we are. And there's a lot of logistics to go involved with food, and you have vendors and orders and other things that kind of, throw wrenches in your day sometimes. But for the most part, um, it's pretty simple. We have a good formula for success and for timing these things out, and it seems to be working well. So we're going to keep doing it until it stops working. But it makes it fun.
Great, Brandon. Uh, wow, it's been a very, very interesting episode. You gave us a lot of nuggets, and I really appreciate it. But before I leave you for the rest of the day, we usually finish off with three rapid fire questions. You
Shoot.
ready? So the
Yeah.
first one, your favorite ingredient?
Hmm. Man, that's a tough one. Like all time or like right now?
Right now, right now.
Right now? Ah, man, right now, my favorite ingredient to use. Um, that's a tough one. I'm glad you put me on the spot on this because it can go either way. I'm doing a couple of things personally for myself, but I'm also doing some things for the team and the athletes that work really well too. Um, and it's kind of fennel's been one of the things that I've been gravitating towards a lot right now.
Mhm.
Not for the mind, but mostly for the gut, for my gut health personally, but trying to incorporate ways to utilize that flavor into some cooking um, has been it's a challenge, but it's a really delicious food if you can use it properly. Um, Again, I use the pollen to finish some dishes with because it just adds another dimension of flavor. If you've had it before, but it's a really diverse, but it has that the anise, black licorice kind of notes, right? And a lot of people don't like black licorice, but if it's used properly, it can really accentuate other foods, especially vegetables. Um, and I even dusted on some fish at times, and I did a scallop dish the other day and dusted a little bit on there just to add another layer of dimension, and flavor to that dish. But the raw fennel has been kind of the go-to. The fronds, you can really use the entire thing. And that's what I think a lot of people don't do either, is they only use one piece or a component of this, and you can use the entire thing. Yeah, the fronds are delicious, and you can garnish with a salad. You can pickle the stems. You can just shave the thing raw. My favorite way right now is to kind of braise the fennel. I kind of cut it down into kind of batons and stir it off in some plant-based butter. Sweat it down really good. Try to get some color and achieve some the Maillard reaction, as we call it. That's where the sugars caramelize, and that's where all the flavor comes from. And hit it with some vegetable stock, and then just like slowly cook it in a pan, and it comes out. It's fork tender, and it's amazing. It tastes like nothing else that I've ever had, and most people are like, "Wow, I didn't even know what this is," and "Wow, it tastes like this. This is great." So that's one of my go-tos right now.
Nice. Second one, I'm Italian. You said you have Italian roots. So who's your favorite Italian chef?
Well, there's a few, but you can't say the one, and we all know who that guy is. Mario Batali. You can't go there no more. It's some bad stuff, that guy. No, that's a tough one too. I mean, growing up, Mario Batali and there's a couple, food chefs, but I don't know. They cook a lot of Italian food. Scott Conant's really good. He's got some really great restaurants. The food's always stellar. I'll probably go with him right now when it comes to just like Italian food. He's just got his finger on the pulse. Great restaurateur. Food's always stellar. But there's a lot of great ones out there though.
Yeah, of course.
They're all old and look like grandmothers. Actually, the best ones are.
Okay, last one. Who's the athlete you would like to cook for?
Hmm.
No basketball related, of course.
Any athlete?
Yep.
Probably Tom Brady
Which
because
one?
he's like he cares about food, you know, like he cares about his nutrition. And when you cook for somebody that not only has just a shit ton of money, but like really cares about their body and what goes in it, but also has a great palate, probably be fun to cook for, you know, and the appreciation and the dialogue would be fun, I think. Yeah.
Sure. All right, Brandon. If some of our listeners would like to reach out to you, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. AZ Chef B. I'm on Instagram. I don't really do Facebook or anything else, but I like photos and sharing recipes and, you know, capturing moments when I can on Instagram. And, you know, I stay fairly up to date on my LinkedIn too. But for the most part, that's how you can reach me.
Okay. Thank you again. It's been a true pleasure. And thanks again for taking the time and being my guest today.
Real fun. Thanks for letting me blab. Appreciate your time and hope to see you again soon.
I don't know if you feel the same, but after listening to Chef Brandon, I'm starving. So while I go get something to eat, please subscribe to the channel and remember that you can find Sport Vitamins on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, guys, I'm out.